So we will continue on the kinds of corporation. So for this session, we will discuss the following: classified according to their organizers, according to their functions, as to the governing laws, as to their legal status. What is a corporation by Stoppel? Although this is not really a corporation, corporation by prescription, classification of corporations according to the existence of stocks, classification of corporations as to laws of incorporation, as to number of components, and other corporations. Now, I highlighted the kinds of corporation covered by the bar syllabus, namely stock corporation, non-stock corporation, one-person corporation, closed corporation, educational corporation, and religious corporation. I just classified them in this way so that we can really discuss them in light with the usual way we categorize corporations. Now, I'll discuss the other kinds or classifications in passing as prelude to the other kinds of corporations as per bar syllabus, and also to put these corporations in their proper light. So, there are different ways in classifying corporations, and this is just one of the many ways. So corporation could be categorized based on their organizers. So a corporation could be public or private depending on the organizers. So if it was the government that organized the corporation, then it is a public corporation. And if it is organized by private individuals or entities, then it's a private corporation. Now, if a corporation also has as its purpose the performance of public functions, then it's a public corporation. And if it is intended for profit or, private functions, it's a private corporation. And as to the governing law, as we discussed last time, if a corporation is created under a public law, then or a special law, then a corporation is a public corporation. While if it is created under the general law, meaning the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, then it is a private law. With an exception, in the case of GOCCs, which are created through a special law, but they are, as per jurisprudence, classified as private corporations. And then, as to legal status, a corporation, well, could be a de jure corporation or a de facto corporation. Now, what is a de jure corporation? A de jure corporation is one that has fully complied with the requirements of incorporation under the code. So there is full compliance of all the requirements under the law. As such, it enjoys full legal personality and corporate powers for the issuance of its certificate of incorporation by SEC. Under Section 18 of the Revised Corporation Code, a corporation becomes a de jure corporation upon compliance with all legal requirements, including the submission of articles of incorporation and other necessary documents under the law to SEC. And once the SEC issues the certificate of incorporation, then the corporation now acquires juridical personality and is considered a de jure corporation. So if you look at the provision, a corporation is considered de jure when it complies with the process. Full compliance brings about a de jure corporation. Now we have jurisprudential standards for this de jure corporation, and is usually discussed in relation to a de facto corporation. So a de jure corporation is distinguished from a de facto corporation which operates with some compliance deficiencies but is still recognized under certain conditions. What this means is Well, a de facto corporation has the same opportunities as a de jure corporation. It is treated as just like a de jure corporation. Okay, it can perform corporate powers. The public can transact with a de facto corporation in the same way that it transacts with the de jure corporation. Now, Section 19 of the code protects deficiency in compliance de facto corporations from collateral attacks. So Section 19 of the code protects de facto corporations. And this protection, okay, is crafted in the only remedy or the only legal proceeding where the status of a de facto corporation could be attacked is through a quo warranto proceeding initiated by the Solicitor General. So this is another way of saying that a de facto corporation will enjoys the same rights and privileges, powers, and authority as that of a de jure corporation. Only that its personality, its franchise, could be challenged through a quo warranto proceeding by the Solicitor General. Now, what is this quo warranto? This remedy is covered by Section 19 of the Revised Corporation Code and by Rule 66 of the Rules of Court. Okay, this remedy allows the Solicitor General or other authorized parties to question the validity of the corporation's existence if it is alleged to have been improperly formed or is exercising corporate powers without proper authority. So take note of this, that the party that will initiate this remedy is the state through the Solicitor General. Now, a private party, meaning a non-state party, can also initiate, but under the imprimatur, the written imprimatur of the Solicitor General. Otherwise, the quo warranto proceeding will be dismissed for lack of personality to sue. Now, jurisprudence, again, the Ago Realty and Development Corporation case, Supreme Court emphasized the importance of compliance with the requirements prescribed by the code in order to acquire a de jure status. In this case, highlighted the procedural requirements for derivative suits and the role of the board in corporate governance. In Marasigan versus Marasigan, the Supreme Court discussed the governance of corporations under the code, specifically on the requirements for valid meetings and elections. And by consequence, okay, it also discussed the need to comply with corporate bylaws and articles of incorporation to avoid disputes. So there is full compliance by a de jure corporation. And for a de facto corporation, there is deficiency in the compliance. Now, to expound more on the discussion, okay, on de facto corporations, a de facto corporation is an entity that operates as a corporation, as we said a while ago. It acts just like a de jure corporation. And this is despite not fully complying with the legal requirements for incorporation. Now, take note of this. While it lacks de jure corporate status, it is recognized as a corporation in circumstances, most especially when there is a need to protect third parties who have dealt with the corporation in good faith. Now, what are the requirements so that there is a de facto status of a corporation? Number one, a valid law under which incorporation is possible. Number two, a bona fide attempt to incorporate under the law. And number three, actual use of corporate powers. So these are indispensable requirements. Absent one requirement, then a corporation is not even a de facto corporation. And the law emphasizes that the filing of articles of incorporation and the issuance of a certificate of incorporation are essential for the existence of a de facto corporation. So, we cannot consider a corporation as a de facto corporation if in the very first place, it was not issued a certificate of incorporation because the requisites provide that there must be a bona fide attempt to incorporate under the law. So if the corporation, this perceived corporation did not submit to SEC articles of incorporation and or it was not issued a certificate of incorporation by SEC, then it did not comply with this requirement, a bona fide attempt to incorporate under the law. In this case, Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima versus Alzona 2018, Supreme Court clarified that a corporation cannot be considered de facto unless it has filed its articles of incorporation and received a certificate of incorporation from the SEC. So the court ruled in this case that the petitioner, okay, was not a de facto corporation at the time of the transaction because SEC had not yet issued its certificate of incorporation. So that's the minimum requirement so that a corporation at least is a de facto corporation. Nag-submit ng articles of incorporation at naka-receive ng certificate of incorporation from SEC. Now, what if a corporation is not even a de facto corporation? Will it be, exonerated from liability in its transaction with the public? In this case, and like in previous bar questions, kung hindi pasok ang concept ng de facto corporation, these individuals projecting themselves as a corporation who have not complied with the bare requirements, the minimum requirements, could still be held liable under the doctrine of corporation by estoppel. So under this doctrine of corporation by estoppel, even if the group of individuals are not really given a franchise to operate as a corporation for purposes of enforcing rights and to make them liable, then they are considered as a corporation. Corporation by estoppel. So in this case, the court highlighted the doctrine of corporation by estoppel, which applies when parties act as if a corporation exists, even if it does not. Okay? And the goal there is to prevent unjust enrichment or harm to third parties. So again, yung sa corporation by estoppel, that is not really a classification of corporation, but it's the it's the means of the law to enforce liability. Now let's talk more about the doctrine of corporation by estoppel. As provided in section 20 of the code, the doctrine prevents individuals or entities from denying the existence of a corporation when they have acted as if it were duly incorporated. This doctrine is rooted in equity, ensuring fairness in dealings, and preventing unjust enrichment. So these are the, theoretical roots of the doctrine. So a group of individuals or entities cannot deny their existence as a corporation even if they are not a corporation for purposes of, enforcing equity, fairness in dealings, and to prevent unjust enrichment. Jurisprudence has consistently upheld this principle, applying it to both parties who transact with a non-existent corporation and those who act on behalf of such an entity. Okay. So yung mga nakikipag-transact sa corporation and those acting as a corporation, they will be bound by this doctrine for purposes of enforcing rights and for making the party liable. If we connect this to the concept of separate personality, diba, there is always this barrier between the corporation and the people behind the corporation. But if a corporation does not really exist and people are acting as if it exists for purposes of enforcing rights and liabilities, this conceptual corporation is born, okay, out of estoppel from the acts of the parties. Now, Section 20, okay, this provision states that individuals who act as a corporation without proper authority are liable as general partners for debts and liabilities incurred. Conversely, those who transact with such an ostensible corporation cannot deny its existence to avoid obligations. We mentioned already about equity, okay, and the prevention of unjust enrichment. And this particular section talks about the doctrine of corporation by estoppel to achieve that purpose. So this is the conceptual idea. If there is no corporation and you pretend that there is a corporation and this corporation transacts with the public, the people behind this imaginary corporation cannot later on evade liability by saying that there was no corporation. So the law provides this mechanism to protect, okay, possible victims of those impersonating themselves as corporations. Vice versa rin po. Vice versa. If individuals act like they are corporation and they believe that they are a corporation and then third persons transact with them, then later on, nagkaroon ng liability tong mga third persons. Pwede bang sabihin nung third persons hindi na sila magbayad? Kasi yung corporation nitong mga tao na to ay inexistent. Well, the answer is no. They cannot use that argument because we have this provision on corporation by estoppel. So the purpose of this is to make a non-existent but apparently or an ostensibly a corporation a means of enforcing obligations. So the law ensures that parties cannot escape liability or obligations by claiming the lack of corporate personality. Bautista versus Manila Seedling Bank Foundation Incorporated, 2024. The Supreme Court emphasized that the doctrine of corporation by estoppel applies to prevent injustice. So in this case, the Quezon City government was stopped from questioning the corporate capacity of MSBFI due to its prior dealings with the entity. So yung Quezon City government nagkaroon ng obligation dito sa corporation, MSBFI, pero parang ayaw na nilang magbayad kay MSBFI kasi may question dun sa existence ni MSBFI, okay, the Manila Seedling Bank Foundation Incorporated. So can the LGU raise as a defense for non-payment the fact that the creditor is not really a corporation? The answer is no. Hindi pwede yan. To prevent injustice on the part of MSBFI, it must be considered as a corporation. Although a corporation by estoppel to enforce the liability of Quezon City government. Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima versus Alzona, the court upheld the validity of a donation to a non-registered corporation. Imagine that. You donate something to a non-registered corporation. Okay? Kung non-registered yung corporation na yan, dapat walang obligation yung donor na ibigay yung property. But because of its dealings with the Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima, Alzona is now stopped from denying the existence of that corporation. Even if in law, strictly, okay, Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima is not even a de facto corporation. So walang corporation talaga. But in line with justice and equity, they should be considered as a corporation for purposes of preventing injustice. A Lim versus Philippine Fishing Gear Industries Incorporated, the court held that individuals acting as a corporation without proper authority are personally liable for obligations incurred, as they cannot use the lack of corporate personality as a defense. So as far as third parties are concerned, pwede nilang i-enforce yung liability as against these individuals who present themselves as corporations, and the enforcement of the liability is not in the sense that there is really a corporation, but to make the individuals behind it personally liable. So ma-enforce pa rin yung obligation involving transactions against this purported corporation kahit na hindi nag-exist yung corporation na yan. But the way done is by making the individuals behind it personally liable. Examples, an application of the doctrine of corporation by Stoppel. First situation, liability of individuals acting as a corporation. This is, the classic meaning of corporation by Stoppel. Individuals who acted as a corporation without proper incorporation. Hindi nila pwedeng sabihin na wala na silang babayaran kasi wala talagang corporation na nag-exist. The law demands is they will be treated as a corporation and they will be held personally liable for the debts incurred by this purported corporation. So this demonstrates that those who assume corporate powers without authority cannot escape liability by raising the absence of a corporation. Number two, estoppel against third parties. So dito naman, hindi yung mga tao behind the corporation ang liable, kundi isang third party transacting with this corporation. Like in the case of Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima versus Alzona. So meron pa ring meron pa ring donation, and the same should be enforced. The obligation must be done. Because Alzona, because of its prior dealings, is now stopped from questioning the corporate existence of the Doni Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of Fatima. And like in the case we mentioned a while ago, Bautista versus Manila Seedling Foundation Incorporated, Mayor Bautista, okay, yung City of Quezon City Government, kahit government pa yan, pwede silang ma-applyan ng doctrine of estoppel. So hindi nila pwedeng, even if the government, okay, questions the the existence of a corporation, if through its prior dealings it considered that company as a corporation, then obligations must be enforced under its transactions with that. So the government, not even the government can evade its liabilities, okay, by raising lack of corporate existence. Corporation by prescription. Is there such a thing as a corporation by prescription under the revised corporation code? Okay, wala tayong provision on corporation by prescription under the new code. Okay? In fact, the prevailing rule is walang corporation na makikreate kung hindi dumaan sa proseso. And you can deduce that from the case of Ago Realty and Development Corporation versus Ago. Okay? Because corporations are creatures of law. Legal fiction yan. At nagkakaroon lang ng legal fiction if there is compliance with the legal process. However, there is one particular kind of corporation by prescription that is widely accepted. Okay? Roman Catholic Church is a corporation by prescription. So talagang exception to, it's a rare instance where a corporation is recognized as such even if it did not go through the legal process. The Roman Catholic Church was not formally organized but has been duly recognized by immemorial usage as a corporation with rights and duties maintainable at law. So that's the only exception. General rule, hindi pwede to kasi ang corporation is a creature of law, dadaan dapat yan ng proseso. Roman Catholic Church, that's the single exception to a corporation by prescription. Now, corporations could be classified based on the existence of stocks or shares. So if a corporation has a capital divided into stocks and the corporation declares dividends out of these shares, then that is a stock corporation. And if not, it's a non-stock corporation. Stock corporation is basically created for profit. A corporation that is not created for profit is a non-stock corporation. Now, let's look in detail under the code. What is a stock corporation? A stock corporation is one with capital stock divided into shares and authorized to distribute dividends to shareholders based on their shareholder standings. So let's look at the key features of a stock corporation. Okay, first, ownership is represented by shares of stock. Second, shareholders are entitled to dividends from surplus profits. Now, it's wrong to simply define a stock corporation as one where its capital is divided into shares of stock. Hindi pwedeng mag-end lang dun. Otherwise, kung yun ang definition ng stock corporation, it's not compliant with the definition of the law, even in the old code. Dapat, aside from presence of stocks or shares, the shareholders must also be entitled to dividends. That's another important feature of a stock corporation. Now, going into the shares, yung shares sa isang stock corporation, shares may be classified into different types with corresponding rights, privileges, or restrictions as may be specified by the incorporators and later on by the stockholders in their articles of incorporation or amended articles of incorporation. So shares may further be classified. Now, voting rights are generally attached to shares. That's the general rule. Pag may share ka, if you own a share, then that share is presumed to have voting rights. So kung makareceive ka ng common share, may voting rights yan. Now, the exception to this rule is when the shares, as per the articles of incorporation, they are classified as preferred shares, may restrictions na dyan, or redeemable shares. So kung ang classification ng shares ay hindi common shares, but preferred or redeemable, then they are exceptions to the existence of voting rights. Now, we mentioned a while ago that stock corporations, okay, entitle stockholders to dividends. Under Section 35, one of the powers of a stock corporation is to issue shares, declare dividends, and engage in lawful business activities. So what would be examples of stock corporation? Yung mga manufacturing or trading companies. Okay, corporations engage in exploration of natural resources, mining, stock corporations yung mga yan. Banks are stock corporations. Now, this case, clarifies the nature of a stock corporation. National Food Authority versus City Government of Tagum, 2024. Okay, Supreme Court emphasized that stock corporations must have capital stock divided into shares, that's one, and that corporation must be authorized to distribute dividends. So, in this case, the court clarified that entities without stockholders or voting shares, okay, wala silang stock holdings, wala ring voting shares, such as the NFA, cannot be classified as stock corporations. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas versus COA 2021, the court reiterated that stock corporations must meet two criteria. Okay? Number one, capital stock divided into shares. Yan yung alam po natin. At dapat hindi natin kalimutan yung pangalawa. The corporation must be authorized to distribute dividends to stockholders. Entities failing to meet these two criteria are not considered stock corporations. Okay, how about non-stock corporation? Definition. A non-stock corporation is an entity organized for purposes other than profit. So profit is not the main purpose why a non-stock corporation is organized. Furthermore, no part of its income is distributable as dividends to its members, trustees, or officers. So para saan yung profit? Profit must be used to further the corporation's purpose. The non-stock corporation is different from stock corporation in terms of their structure, their purpose, and income distribution. So what is usually the purpose of a non-stock corporation? Okay. Typically, non-stock corporations are organized for charitable, religious, educational, professional, cultural, or similar non-profit purposes. Specific examples, yung mga foundation, civic organizations, and professional associations. In this 2012 case, Republic of the Philippines versus City of Parañaque, Supreme Court clarified that non-stock corporations are organized for specific purposes. Okay? So, kung makita na po natin na the purpose of that corporation is charitable or educational activities and their income is used solely for these purposes, then they are non-stock corporation. So may income ba ang mga non-stock corporation? Of course, meron. Malalaki rin po. Okay? Especially educational corporation. But okay, under the law and per jurisprudence, their income is used solely for these purposes. So do not forget about the twin requirements for the existence of a stock corporation, okay, and the non-profit nature of non-stock corporation. Now, we already discussed this one. If a corporation is incorporated or established through Philippine laws, then it's a domestic corporation. If it is incorporated here and it is SEC that issued its certificate of incorporation, it's a domestic corporation. Otherwise, it's a foreign corporation. Now, a corporation could further be classified according to the number of components, okay? Meaning according to the number of individuals behind the corporation. Say a corporation could be a corporation aggregate if it is composed of two or more, okay, individuals. A corporation could also be considered as a corporation sole if it is composed only of one individual. And then we have under the revised corporation code, the so-called one-person corporation. Now the question is, what's the difference between a corporation sole and a one-person corporation? Well, one big difference is a one-person corporation, although it has only one component, it is a stock corporation, while a corporation sole is a non-stock corporation. It's a religious corporation. The usual example here is yung religious corporation. Here, for example, in the Archdiocese of Tuguegarao is a corporation sole and is composed solely by the Archbishop. Okay? Corporation sole. Non-stock yan. It's not intended for profit. But a one-person corporation is a stock corporation. Its shares are divided into stocks, or its capital is divided into stocks. And there is only one stockholder. And the purpose is for profit. One-person corporation. So what are examples of corporation aggregate? So, well, it could be a stock or non-stock for as long as its stockholders or members are more than one. Now, let's look at how the revised corporation code explains a one-person corporation. So, definition, a corporation with a single stockholder who may be natural, person, trust, or estate is a one-person corporation. Key features of a one-person corporation: first, it has no minimum capital stock requirement. The sole stockholder acts as both incorporator and director kasi mag-isa niya lang. And because of the singularity of the stockholder, it has a simplified governance structure. Now, there is a prohibition. These entities, banks, insurance companies, and public utilities cannot form a one-person corporation. So this innovation, this one-person corporation, simplifies corporate formation and governance. Dati ang hirap mag-establish ng corporation. But now, in less than one day, you can make a corporation by starting with a one-person corporation. Now, is it possible, or is the concept of a one-person corporation is still governed by the doctrine of separate personality? Applicable pa rin ba yung separate personality if the stockholder is only one? The answer, of course, is yes. There's still a separate personality between the corporation, the one-person corporation, and the single stockholder. Separate pa rin ang personality nila, and therefore, the single stockholder, for as long as it transacts in good faith, and for as long as its assets are distinguishable from that of the OPC, they cannot be held personally liable for the liability of the OPC. Now, under Section 130, okay, that reinforces the doctrine of separate personality and allows the application of piercing the veil, provides that the single stockholder must prove that the OPC's property is separate from his personal property to maintain limited liability. So yan lang ang kailangan gawin ng single stockholder para operational yung doctrine of separate personality. Siguraduhin niya na yung personal property niya, his assets, okay, are separate from the assets of the one-person corporation. Okay? So that the limited liability rule will apply. Otherwise, the doctrine of piercing the veil will set in. The stockholder may be held personally liable for corporate debts. I'll send a separate video on one-person corporation. But for now, so that we can finish the topics, I think that discussion would suffice already. A closed corporation is one whose articles of incorporation restrict. Okay, that's the keyword. May restriction. Pag closed corporation ang pinag-uusapan, there is a restriction on the number of shareholders. Dapat hindi yan lumampas ng 20. Should not be more than 20. Another restriction is prohibition on public offering of shares. And it imposes restrictions on share transfers. Kaya tinawag na closed corporation yan. Kumbaga, ayaw nilang magpapasok ng bago. So this is usually the type of corporation involving families. Take note again of the restrictions. The shareholders cannot exceed 20. There is prohibition on public offering of shares. At saka, hindi pwedeng i-transfer yung mga shares. There is restriction on the transfer of shares. So this structure, this closed structure, allows for more flexible management, often directly by the stockholders, and is governed by specific provisions in the revised corporation code, specifically Title 12. So kung ganun, yung closed corporation halos ayaw magpapasok ng bago, ang key features nito ay parang partnership siya. So closed corporation, parang partnership. Okay? And to some extent, there is fiduciary relationship among the stockholders. Shareholders often manage the corporation directly, like how partners manage the partnership. Now, can banks, corporations engage in mining and public utilities form this kind of stock corporations? Pwede ba silang mag-form ng closed corporation? Banks, mining, and public utilities? The answer is no. Bawal. These certain industries are not allowed to form closed corporations. In Marasigan versus Marasigan, 2023, the court emphasized that closed corporations are unique because stock ownership is often identical with management. Stock ownership is often identical with management. Bakit? Ba't kakaiba to? Why is this set up? Stock ownership means management. In other stock corporations, your ownership of shares does not mean, direct management of the corporation. Because to manage the corporation, you must be elected as a director. But in this particular kind of stock corporation, closed corporation, pag may shares ka, automatic, you directly manage the corporation because of the limited number of stockholders and the other restrictions. So this allows stockholders to directly manage corporate affairs, unlike in regular corporations where the board of directors represents the stockholders. So ownership is not synonymous to management in other stock corporations. Kasi kailangan pa ng directors who will manage. But in closed corporation, what makes this unique? Yung pag-own mo ng stocks, that is identical with management already. In Section 99 of the RCC, this permits stockholders to enter into binding agreements regarding corporate management, voting rights, and other matters, even if such agreements restrict the powers of the board of directors. In closed corporations, this is part of the flexibility granted to this kind of corporation. Now, the other kinds of corporations mentioned in the syllabus, educational corporations and religious corporations, are considered special corporations. Special corporations to mga to, educational and religious corporations. Educational corporations are either non-stock, okay, or stock corporations organized for educational purposes. That is as per Section 105 of the RCC. Educational corporations are governed by the provisions of the RCC and also by special laws. Non-stock educational corporations must have a board of trustees with terms staggered to ensure continuity. So take note of that, the educational corporations under the RCC are governed by both the RCC, the general provisions of RCC, and by special laws. And take note also that educational corporations may be organized either as a stock corporation or a non-stock corporation. So what are examples of educational corporations? We have in Tuguegarao a lot of private schools. Colleges and universities are educational corporations. Now for non-stock educational corporation, they must have a board of trustees consisting of 5 to 15 members in multiples of 5. Okay? Trustees are classified to ensure staggered terms with 1/5 of their terms expiring annually unless otherwise provided in the articles or bylaws. How about a corporation? Sometimes a corporation sole is used by religious organizations for educational purposes. Like in Cagayan, yung Archdiocese of Tuguegarao, the educational schools owned by the Archdiocese are educational corporations, but in fact, they are part of this corporation sole called the Archdiocese of Tuguegarao. Okay, in Barba versus Liceo de Cagayan University, 2012, Supreme Court clarified that corporate officers in educational institutions organized as non-stock corporations are those elected or appointed by the Board of Trustees or as provided in the bylaws. So if you look at how a non-stock educational corporation uh, create corporate officers, it is through the Board of Trustees. Yung Board of Trustees, they either elect or appoint corporate officers. Another way of doing that is through their corporate bylaws. So corporate officers or corporate offices may be created through corporate bylaws. And lastly, religious corporations, another special corporation. A religious corporation may be classified as corporation sole or religious societies. So you can branch out religious corporations into two. Okay? It could be a corporation sole or a religious society. So what is a corporation sole again? It is formed by a religious leader to manage the affairs and properties of a religious denomination. That is in section 108. And it's called a corporation sole because it's the religious leader that is the corporation. Pag-isa niya lang. Okay, the member. Okay. The only composition of a corporation sole is the religious leader behind it. How about religious societies? Well, this is another kind of religious corporation composed of two or more persons for religious purposes. Now, a religious corporation is governed by the provisions on non-stock corporations. Now, can a corporation sole be converted into a corporation aggregate? In IEMELIF Incorporated versus Lazaro 2010, Supreme Court allowed the conversion of a corporation sole into a corporation aggregate. And this conversion is done through amendment of its articles of incorporation. What are the provisions governing religious corporations under the RCC? Okay. Chapter 2, sections 107 to 116. Now, take note also of this case, 2022 case. Superior General of the Religious of the Virgin Mary, RVM, versus Republic of the Philippines. The Supreme Court emphasized that religious corporations, like other private corporations, are prohibited from acquiring alienable lands of the public domain under the Constitution, although they may hold private lands if acquired through lawful means. So private corporations, including religious corporations, cannot acquire alienable lands of the public domain. Ang pwede lang nilang acquire ay private lands. Okay? So it cannot apply for a free patent. These are no longer included in the bar exam. So we're done generally on topic number 2. So we'll have a 5-minute break, and after this we'll proceed to topic number 3, incorporation and organization.